All right, welcome back. It's the verdict. Before we took the break, we put AIG Gwari Usman on pause. Before we unpause him, something else has happened. And for that, we're going to go to our political correspondent, Shewa Kibaloye. This is not happening on the magic box, is it, Shewa?
No, this what has magic. Happened? It's a serious one. I don't know if our producer has it now.
The picture.
Some fake news. We're in the period of fake news. And if we have it on the screen, it's better understood if it's put on the screen. But if you don't have it, perhaps, there you go.
That's
if you pull down the scroll on the screen, very good. So there you go. That is a fake news. And Channels Television can confirm to you that this has been what has been going on social media. We're disclaiming it, and this is totally untrue. This has been going on.
That isn't you.
That is exactly not me. This looks like me 2 years ago when I was carrying a straight fro.
Before this, your haircut.
Before this, a change of haircut.
Change of glasses.
And this is not your set either.
This is not my set in the last 6 months or so.
And these are not the frames you use.
These are not my. Then again, if you look at the design of Politics Today, the fellow who did this did a pretty good job, but is a bad job with a bad mindset. I mean, he cloned it very well, made it look like it was real, and this is some of the things that we're talking about in the age of fake news.
So, Sean, tell us what they say you are saying and what.
So, what they're saying is that there is an appeal court judgment declaring Ibeji as the candidate of the PDP in Cross River State.
Who is that?
That is not true. One of the contenders in the race, and that story is untrue, as far as we know.
And we did not say it.
Channels Television did not say it. We disclaim it, and we totally distance ourselves from that kind of stuff.
On the scroll.
It's never been on Channels Television, and we can say authoritatively.
So for those who have seen this picture, maybe we can put it up again. For those who have seen this picture on any of the social media platforms, this is completely incorrect. It's completely fake. That's not Shehu. We didn't say that. We didn't scroll that. That's not Politics Today. It's completely a figment of the imagination of whoever it was that created that.
That was a terrible work of those who clone and do fake stuff on social media. Laddie, this is not the first time that we're saying Channel Television is investigating it, and we'll get to the root of the matter. This is a bad job of fake news, and we're terribly appalled by this kind of move anyone could make on the eve of the election. And indeed, that's what they do with a credible platform, just to use fake news to dissuade or to confuse viewers or those who consume those kind of materials.
And it's very important to state that Channels Television knows nothing about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Indeed. Again, it speaks to what we talk about. I mean, this is an aspect of security breach here, when you are able to mimic a platform that is known for trust and credibility and use it to advance your own personal or narrow self-interest.
Because it's a credible platform, that's exactly why you do that.
That's it, and that people will believe that, even without further ado. So already comments are being made on the basis of the belief of the story as having come out from.
But maybe I can say this to those who think if they do this kind of fake news, they can get away with it. It's now almost easy. If you do this kind of work or job for anyone, the one that was done in Delta State, they're paying for it. And so if you think that you can do a fake news, a bad job of fake news, and put it out there, there are ways to digitally track you, and we will get it. We're going to get to the root of the matter. So nobody should sit in the comfort of your room with your 500 megabytes and be doing a bad job and trying to confuse public. We're going to get to the root of the matter. Those who did it in Delta State are paying for it.
Just to remember that it did not come from this platform, and nobody should believe it if you see it.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks indeed. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, going back to AIG Gwari Usman, again, you were on pause, and you were telling us about, on the balance of if you see several things and so on. I hope you can still recollect your thoughts and continue from where you stopped before the break.
Yes. Thank you. As I was saying, the electorate, it is expected that almost all or most of them would have made up their mind on who to vote for, even before they go out to vote. So, since one has made up his mind on who to vote, my advice is that as you go out to the polling station, you vote whoever you've made up your mind to vote and leave to your house. However, if you wish to stay, then you will be directed on where to wait by the either the policeman or the INEC representative there. At least as specified by the rules, and you obviously will stay some distance away from the polling unit and wait for the counting. But otherwise, you should have complete trust. Vote and go back home and wait for the results. That is my advice. Thank you very much.
In giving this advice, Mr. Usman, the electorate who has decided who to vote for is in the polling unit, he cast his vote and he's either waiting or is going home. And then there is some kind of situation that is untoward. Should they try to stop the thugs, or should they go away or just stay back and watch the situation? Should they help the police or the security personnel in that polling unit?
I will advise in such situation that they should report immediately to the police at the polling unit. And if the police at the polling unit are not capable of handling the issue, of course, there is another team which should not be far away from the polling unit. That is the armed team that could probably be more in number and have the capacity to deal with the situation. So they should report immediately and should not take laws into their hands. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Odumosu, let me bring it to you. And I want to talk about something that we all noticed during the presidential polls, and that's VIPs in the polling unit and, you know, the whole crowd and distraction for some people who were there. What do you think about that? And do you have any role in that at all to try to control the crowd? Because from what we saw, whenever the VIPs were coming out to vote, it was not as it should be. What do you think?
Well, thank you. Our role as civil defense at the polling unit is to, like I said, ensure orderliness, and part of which is crowd control as well. And that is why we've deployed different specialized units, and as well, we also have a dog kennel. But besides that, the issue of the VIPs, you will understand that the greatest challenge that security agencies are having as far as security and attitude of our people is concerned is the people themselves. You see, when VIPs are coming, you know naturally the kind of situation that has enveloped our political space now, that, you know, you have a lot of praise singers, you know, around most of our politicians. And, you know, that is where some people even make a living. And so that is why you see, basically, when you see VIP coming around, majority of the people understood the fact that, okay, by virtue of their, you know, maybe clinging onto this man, you know, I may be recognized or something may be a fallout for me. So usually it's just the people themselves. And there is really no way you can do away with that. You know, if you talk about VIPs, then naturally speaking, you would expect maybe like a sitting governor or the president or the vice president going to cast their votes, and they don't get the kind of aura that their presence deserves. So it is really not an issue, especially when the people could conduct themselves very well, and that is what security agencies are there to achieve. But ruling that out, I don't think it's possible, but it can be contained.
I don't want you to answer the next question as a security and civil defense official. I want you to answer it as a security operative. In the run-up to the presidential election, on this program, we asked you about the numbers of personnel that were to be deployed for the election, whether they were immigration or they were policemen or they were any of the other uniformed services. And the question at that time was to see whether or not they were going to be adequate for the number of polling units that had to be covered. During the course of the election, it was reported that in many places you had one, or in some cases, no security operative at the polling units, whereas in some others, you had more than even the required number that were supposed to be at the polling unit. Now, does this not speak to a certain dysfunction in terms of the deployment?
Well, usually the functions of security agencies is to ensure that the materials, both sensitive and non-sensitive materials, are protected. The ad hoc staffs and the INEC staff, all of them are protected. So, but if you notice some areas which, of course, is not reported to me anyway, or to us, we made sure that most of our personnel are deployed to every nooks and crannies, because even as we speak, everybody has taken over their duty post even before today. So issues surrounding areas where security personnel were not noticed, I don't think it applies to us. But generally speaking, I think if that was noticed, there is need to improve, on the strategies being employed.
Given the situation that in the run-up to elections, security personnel accompany materials from place to place to place until they end up at the polling unit. And then at the end of the voting process, whenever that may be, they're supposed to escort this same materials and the personnel back to, in the reverse order, back to the various units where collation, counting, and so on will take place up until the time announcements are made. Many of the incidents that took place, not necessarily in any particular location, but many of the incidents that took place after the voting process had been concluded, including ballot box snatching, burning of materials, and so on. Security breaches basically took place in the reverse process. Is there anything that you know has been done? And I'm not talking at Civil Defense Corps. I'm talking security agencies, because you're supposed to be cooperating and coordinating this in order to more effectively tackle that aspect of the security process.
Yes, I told you earlier that, we said earlier, that issues surrounding election, election is a human process, and as such, you would expect you wouldn't expect total perfection, so to speak. So because it's a human process, you would expect some, it's more or less like a learning process too for security agency, and that is why usually there are review of processes, there are review of activities, there are reviews of strategies, and that is what has been done after the presidential election, because like you said, run up to the presidential election, and those observable situations are some of the things that have been taken care of, because as security agencies, you don't just after every process, you don't just go back, relax. You go back to the table and look at where you have done very well, look at where there are challenges, look at areas you need to improve upon, and look at areas where you need to ensure adequate deployment or performance or security. So those are issues that at the level of security agencies, which of course, like I said, and I repeat that there is serious synergy among different security agencies. So that has been reviewed. All the performances of the agencies have been reviewed. But overall, you had general assessments that at least security agencies were given pass mark. We did creditably well, and I'm sure if the people cooperate effectively with security operatives, for the forthcoming election, which is tomorrow, I think we'll get a better performance on this part of our security agencies. So I want to say that there is no cause for alarm, no cause for confusion. Activities have been reviewed, and security agencies are not, slipping. Rather they are strategizing to ensure that tomorrow is going to be a success, and you look out for that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dumosu. Let's bring in Mr. Bello here. Mr. Bello, you talked about, you were the first one amongst the guests in Abuja that mentioned the personnel that are being deployed. But we also heard from the police public relations officer, or the PRO of the command in Imo State, of the deployment of air surveillance in this election phase of the election. I want to ask, how is that going to work with the personnel on ground? The air surveillance being handled by the Air Force and the personnel on ground. What's the plan to ensure that information that is shared is used effectively?
Thank you very much. Before the elections, before the presidential elections, there was a training on how to handle this issue. And officers and men have been trained effectively on how to handle this issue. There's a synergy, and the communication gap has been filled. So I assure you, by God's grace, things will be okay. They are going to be handled.
How many people, how many personnel is the Immigration Service deploying for this election?
The Immigration Service has deployed over 10,000 personnel in the states. That is the number that were deployed to polling units across the country.
Was that the same that was deployed for the presidential election that is being repeated for the governorship and state House of Assembly elections?
It's the same thing. It's the same number.
In that case, you mentioned earlier about having gotten some people who were found with multiple PVCs and so on, and then some of them who actually had no business having those PVCs. What's the process of those? How do you intend to follow those through to the end? What's going to happen to those people?
We have two categories of people that our officers and men have arrested them with the permanent voters card. These people are non-Nigerians. Those that were arrested with voters, permanent voter registers at the polling unit will be handed over to the relevant authority. But there's second categories that were arrested along the borders, because the service has created a team, a special team, to monitor or to enforce the border closures along all the flanks of our borders. So if you take an example, our team in Taraba, Dadamawa, our team in Lagos, Oyo, Katsina, Sokoto have made some substantial arrests. And then the total number of over 300 permanent voters cards were arrested. Those that were arrested at the exits of our country, at the entry point, were repatriated. But those that were arrested at the polling unit, the investigation is still on. After the investigation, they are going to be handed over to the relevant authority for prosecutions, because non-Nigerians are not supposed to be involved in the election processes. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dumosu, let me just come back to you and ask you about the flash spots, or those states to watch, as some people would like to call them. We had so many assurances of security and etc. before the presidential polls, and we still saw the kind of trouble, even with the dimensions of burning, down the place people actually cast their votes. What do you think, not just you now, but your fellow security agencies should do about security in states that we already know from, precedents, could be flash spots or could be problem-prone areas? What's going to be done differently tomorrow? Because it links into people coming out to vote if they see that it's going to happen anyway.
Well, basically, I don't want Nigerians to be over apprehensive about issues that are relating to flashpoints. Most of those places that we call flashpoints at this juncture, you'll be surprised that by tomorrow, such issues that the expectation of the people will be some people will be disappointed, so to speak, and that is why I want to drive it home because most of you said something about what we are doing differently. You will not. You have to understand that the issues of security is intelligence driven. You know, you have to rely on information. You have to rely on tip-off. You have to rely on surveillance, and that is what we are doing differently this time around. Our people, our men, people have been on ground before today. Sometimes when you see security officers all around in uniform, it doesn't suggest that there are non-uniform personnel within that same vicinity that we're talking about. So that is what we're doing differently. Our activities is going to be intelligence-driven this time around. And as we speak, our personnel are in different nooks and crannies, and information that are coming. You know, when you have a timely information, real time, it allows you to be able to nip, a situation in the bud, and that is what is going to happen. That's why I said a lot of people will be disappointed that most of those flashpoints that people talk about, there will be relative calmness, there will be relative peace, and God willing, that is what we're going to achieve.
Okay, Mr. Odumosu, though that was not the case for Rivers or Lagos, but we do hope, as you've said, that it will be peaceful. We're going to go on a short break now. We'll continue with this line of questioning, and yeah.
Indeed, after the break. All right, warm welcome back. You see starched uniforms, clean vehicles, marching, and so on, and all you see is confident security, essentially. And if Mr. Odumosu, the AIG, and Mr. Bello are to be believed, that's what we should expect to see tomorrow. Now, we just have enough time, gentlemen, for us to take your final words, each of you. Starting with you, Mr. Bello, what would you like the voters tomorrow to know and do? Did you hear me, Mr. Bello? I said, Mr. Bello, I said, what would you like the voter to know and do tomorrow?
Yes, I want the voters to know that it is their right to vote. It is equally a right for them to follow the due process in voting and in following the laws. Let them follow the laws. The security agencies are there to guide them. They should face the security agencies if there's a problem. For that, I'm sure the voting is going to be a successful one.
All right, Mr. Odumosu, how about you?
Well, the voters should eschew violence, ensure that they perform their civic duty without breaking any law, and to be law-abiding. You know, that is one thing my Commandant General Abdullahi Ghana Mohammed will always tell them, that the unity of this country is on the shoulders of everyone. And that is why you have to cooperate as individuals, as one entity. You know, our unity is in our diversity. So if you can come out and perform our civic duty like Nigerians that are, that are thirsting and yearning for development, I think we'll always achieve the needed security we need to achieve. There is no need for unnecessary apprehensions. There is no need for over-excitement, about the polity. There's really no need to heat up the polity. It's our right, and it is only when we're secured that we can have a life of our own. So Nigerians should eschew violence and just make sure they are law-abiding and they do their things within the ambit of the law.
And finally, AIG, Usman Gwari.
Thank you. I think the advice I gave just some few minutes back, no need to repeat that again, but probably to remind every voter that it is their civic responsibility and that it is very, very important that they exercise this responsibility. And while doing it, make sure you go in line with the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Just before we go, maybe we'll have that picture once again. This picture showing our very own Sheun Okibalore.
So we're trying to put out a disclaimer.
Yeah, first of all, that is not Sheun Okibalore. Start off with that. That is not Politics Today set now. And we did not say that the appeal court had named anyone, particular Ibeshi, as candidate.
Yes, that is Sheun Okibalore actually, but not him in his current state, as that has been photoshopped, we think.
Yes.
That is not Politics Today set right now. And
And that's not been for more than 6 months.
And the news bar definitely is not what Channels Television is stating or claiming. So just to put out a disclaimer there. And most likely that's over 2 years old, as we all know that he does not look like that right now. Neither does the set look like that right now. And so Channels Television distances itself from this. If you see it on social media, don't believe it. And the best thing you can do for us is not to share it any longer, because it is not true.
Indeed, and so we have just enough time to say thank you to Shola Odumosu, the Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Jahun Bello, the Controller in charge of Elections, Nigeria Immigration Service, and retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Gwari Akila Usman, who joined us from our Abuja studios for this final segment of The Verdict Tonight. Well, we'll be closing the Verdict studios in a couple of moments to reopen it tomorrow at 7 a.m. at Election Day itself. The news at 10 will come up immediately after this, and thereafter other programs will take off. But the Verdict studios will close. We'll reopen tomorrow morning at 7 and take you through the entire Election Day tomorrow.
That's right, and the most important thing you can do is engage. If you see something, say something, show it to us, and we'll show it to everybody else. Yeah.
And of course, there are all kinds of platforms from which you can do that. Hashtag The Verdict, hashtag 2019 elections, principally. And of course,
our citizens journalists can also go to the number that we have been displaying on our screen.
And we've been advertising.
What's the number, NT?
01406 465. Put a call through. Someone will pick, share your story, sometimes even do a video recording. But again, you can watch us everywhere and anywhere. YouTube and on all our social media
take us with you.
Just carry us wherever you are.
That's right. And we'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.